People ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? And I always tell them it's really simple. One word, progress. Progress equals happiness. If you keep growing, you're gonna feel alive. And if you keep growing, you're gonna have more to give. So I said, I wanna go to the best people on earth and see what do they see that none of us see. What's the pattern? Then you gotta learn pattern utilization. It's one thing to see it, it's another thing to use it. And then if you're good after a while, you get to pattern creation. It's like if you learn to play the piano, most people play other people's music. And then there's a point you've learned so much that you're able to create. And I think those three skills are the most important skills. So I look at the areas that matter most and say, who already has that extraordinary pattern recognition utilization? People themselves. And my whole thing is one choice is no choice. Two choices, the dilemma, there's always three choices. Like you said, I may not like the choice, but it's there. But more importantly, I think it's getting people to see that what they thought was possible, impossible is possible. The more you can give people an experience, like talk's cheap. But I've done enough things in my life with enough people at this stage that I've got a track record where it's like, I said it's gonna happen. Most people say he's probably true, it's probably likely he's gonna pull it off. Maybe I should jump on board. But the mindset has to be destroy any limitation and move forward, move forward, move forward. There is a way, move forward. And I think if you watch this, it's like taking off on a plane from, I'm in Texas right now. If I flew from Dallas here to go to Hawaii, you're off course about 90% of the time. I'm a pilot. Now, what if every time you're off course, oh my God, I'm off course, oh, I should freak out. Oh my God, I'm off course again. But you just tack back and forth and you land exactly where you want to be, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 miles, away. And I think that's how we have to navigate. But most of us, and especially during these COVID times, most of us have been conditioned not to take a risk. People ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? And I always tell them it's really simple. One word, progress. Progress equals happiness. If you keep growing, you're gonna feel alive. And if you keep growing, you're gonna have more to give. And when you're growing and giving is when life is magnificent. It doesn't matter how many statues, Oscars they give you, or Emmys, or how much money you have in the bank. We've all seen people have all those things and I get the phone call because they're depressed or somebody commits suicide in that area. So it's really an inner game. And I think that's what's missing for us today. Everybody's focusing on the outside world, and hell, there's a lot of things in the outside world you'll never be able to control. You can influence, but you can't control it. This, your mind, your emotions, your body, you have 100% control over what you do with these things, and that's where the game is won. You win the inner game, then you win the outer game. But a lot of people spent their life trying to win the outer game, they won, and they're miserable. So to me, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And so many people are focused on success still, which to me is like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's like success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is living what you're made for. And it's like fulfillment and success, they're not even in the same universe. And there's nothing wrong with going for success, but you really gotta figure out what you're made for, and nobody knows in the beginning. So you start where you are and you do what's in front of you, do what's next, and you keep growing until you start to discover, hey, this is my real passion. This is my real hunger and drive. And it can change. People go for 5, 6, 7 years and then they usually question their business, their career, their body, their relationships. And then one of two things happens. They change direction and feel renewed, or they go, no, I got a great deal here. What the hell's wrong with me? And they recommit and they get stronger. But that's life. And if you don't grow, I don't give a damn how much you got going for you, you're gonna be miserable. Bill Clinton gave me that book, and that's where I started. And it explains how our thinking, our process is so affected by the way we're raised generationally, the experiences we go through. So let me give you an example of why we're having challenges today and why I'm more than hopeful. Let's say you were born in 1910. Now think of it this way first. Remember I talked about pattern recognition, pattern utilization, pattern creation. What gave humanity its greatest jump in its capacity was pattern recognition around seasons. Up until that time, we were hunter-gatherers, barely able to survive. It all depended on what was happening in the environment. We were dependent on the outside world. But once we understood the seasons, that planting in the springtime and then taking care of through the summer, boy, in the fall you can reap. And then there's gonna be winter and you gotta hang on to this stuff so you can survive. Once we recognized that pattern, humanity transformed. Communities were created, eventually cities and countries and states, right? So think of it this way. There's also a pattern of your history as a human. 0 to 21, 19 to 2021 is a springtime where everything's easy. It's easy to grow. Growth happens, you don't have to do squat. Your body grows, life grows. And some of us had a more protected childhood, some of us had no protection. We had to step up and take care of things when we were 7 or 8 years old. But regardless, overall, it's a time in which people look out for you, you're taught things, you consume what you're taught. But once you come 19, 20, 21 roughly, and sometimes it's 16 for some people, 25 for others, but you get the picture, you enter a new season of life. You go to the summertime where you start testing and go, well, this is what I was taught, but do I really believe this shit? You know, this is what people say, but now I'm in a relationship, you know? And so all of this next 20 years is an explosive growth period if you work at it from 21 to 41. From 42 to 62 is a reaping time. If you planted really in the spring and you pushed hard through the summer, you're gonna reap. Now, if you didn't plant in the springtime, you're gonna weep in this season. You know, you're gonna be like, I don't have any money, I don't have any time, I don't know what to do, where am I going? But that's a season of power. That's when you really start to be able to lead companies, businesses, environments, and so forth. And again, some people get there earlier, some later, but overall, generationally, that's it. The most important concept in lasting change, identity. We all define ourselves in certain ways, and most of us defined ourselves years ago, and we haven't done an update. And now you're in an environment where you're constantly told how bad it is, how terrible it is, so that stimulates the old part of the human brain, the fight or flight mechanism, the part of your brain that's always looking for what's wrong so you can hide from it, you know, or you can fight it, or you can freeze and hope it doesn't notice, or you can run from it. And so that part of our brain's never gonna make you happy. It's an important part. There's no saber-toothed tiger for us to run from anymore or fight, right? Not for most people. It's not about firewalking. It's about getting yourself to be able to take action in the areas of your life that normally you would more than hold back, where your brain would take over and say, I can't do this, are you crazy? Somebody else did it, but not me. What we do is get people in a state where you're gonna follow through, where you're gonna face your fear and do it anyway. And the way we do that, besides changing people's focus, showing you how to direct and control that focus, is also by learning how to use your body as the tool to change your state. Listen, if I drop my shoulders enough, if I were to breathe shallow enough, if I were to slow down and say, you know, I don't know, I'll give it a try, and go into this state, I'd be like Samson getting his hair cut off, right? Because what we don't realize is that our mind is directly affected by the way we use our body. If you change the tempo in which you move, if you change the way you breathe, if you change the way you use your voice, you literally change your biochemistry. And the one thing that you'll see that's the same with the greatest golfer in the world, or the greatest musician, or the greatest, actor, is they have this sense of certainty, and it isn't born. It's something that you make as a habit. You drill it into yourself. I sure as heck didn't have that sense of certainty growing up, not even close. And what I found myself doing early on is I felt so uncertain, I couldn't get myself to do anything. So I developed these rituals of certainty. I would go on these runs, and on the run, even though I didn't feel like it, I would do these incantations where I would say out loud over and over again, God's wealth is circulating in my life. His wealth flows to me in avalanches of abundance. All my needs, desires, and goals are met instantaneously by infinite intelligence. For I'm one with God, and God is everything. And I would say that over and over and over for 30 minutes. Just crazy. And I would envision that God's circulating, His wealth circulating my life, and I'd see the wealth of love and friendship and impact and growth and economics and all these things, physical fitness and aliveness. I'd see this wealth of abundance flowing, oceans of it, into my life as I went and did these things. If you envision something clearly enough and you bring certainty to it over and over again, if you engage your physical body in a simple ritual, it could be as little as 10 minutes a day. I call it my hour of power, or 15 minutes to be fulfilled. And all you do is you take 5 minutes, and in those first 5 minutes, you get yourself moving, and you get yourself in a state of certainty in the way you move and the way you breathe. You focus on what you're excited about in your life. You focus on what you want to create, what you want to bring to your children, what you want to bring to the world. And it changes your state. We all know what happens when you're out of state. When you're burnt out, when you're frustrated, when you're overwhelmed. You snap at people sometimes, feel bad about it. You didn't mean to, it's just the state you're in. So to thrive this year, take uncertainty and bring certainty to it. To thrive this year, get what I call a compelling future. Pick anything, a goal, a dream, a desire, something that excites you so much that you're gonna feel yourself compelled to actually find a way to make it happen. You've done it before. You've gotten obsessed. You don't even know how you did it, but things happen and you got yourself to where you want to be. Let's make that happen this year, right now, regardless of It's later in the year, at the beginning of the year, you're watching this. I made this so that hopefully I'd remind you of what you know, that you're made to thrive, not survive. What's the third element that makes somebody an effective leader, makes them a thriver, even when the environment is crazy? Well, they bring certainty to uncertainty. That's leadership skill by focus and physiology, by the way they move, by the way they breathe, by what they do. They bring that certainty because there's something they want so bad that it makes them overcome the fear. They focus on what they want to create, what they want to give, not, oh my God, what if I fail? But the third thing they do is they're decisive. Listen, nothing changes your life like decision. I mean real decision though. Not where people go, well, I'll try, or I kind of decided I want to give this a shot. The word decision comes from incision in Latin, to cut off from. And when you make a decision, you cut off from any possibility except the thing you've committed to. As I always tell people, if you want to take the island, burn the boats. I mean, if you make a real decision, every bit of you is committed to something, it's amazing how life will move for the force of nature of a human being, man or woman, that says, this is how it will be. I don't know how I'm going to get it done, but I know this is what I'm going to do. I know why I'm going to do it. As Martin Luther King has said, any man who hasn't figured out what he's willing to die for isn't fit to live. If you can find something you're so excited about, if you can find something that will drive you with that certainty, and you add to that decisiveness, you can change anything. If you don't like your job, change it. Oh, but there's no jobs out there. Oh, right? Change it, start the job, change who you are in the job where you are, and enjoy yourself. Change your perception, change your appreciation, change your gratitude, change your daily rituals so you start to enjoy things. Change what you notice. Change from trying to get something to trying to give something. The whole game will change. Decisiveness is the ability to make a decision even though you're uncertain once again. What keeps people from making a decision? Fear of failure. All of our suffering as human beings, I deal with people all the time. I mentioned to you off camera, two people I coached yesterday. One's presidential candidate and the other one is a rap superstar, right? But both in the same day. And without naming any names, people that have everything, by your point of view, most people's point of view, they have the fame and they have the love and millions of people love them and they have great economics, financial freedom, and they have homes and they have the fashion, they have everything. They're the shit. Can't tell you how many of them are miserable. The majority are miserable. I'm not bullshitting. I'm the one who gets the phone call from the vast majority. When I say miserable, they're so used to it, some of them don't even realize they're miserable, but most do. They get in a place where it's like, how do I keep this up? How do I keep outdoing myself? How do I, I built these 32 companies, how to keep all 32 going and make them all grow every single year. And that's not how life is, right? And then they worry about what will people think? What will they do? So the decision to say, I am not going to suffer, that if suffering arises, pain's one thing, suffering's another. Suffering is when you're like, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine is a very famous Indian industrialist and billionaire guy. And he just recently took a sport in India that's been around 2,000 years that almost every village child plays, and he turned it into a professional sport. No one had ever made a professional sport 2 years ago. He invested, I don't know, I'm making the number up, $20 million in it. In 2 years, the sport is so successful in India that 500 million people watched the finals. That's amazing. 2 months ago. 500 million people, right? So 500 million, that's how it is in India. And people are saying this is going to be as big as, for them, cricket is the ultimate thing, right? The biggest cricket. So his team valuation, I'm making the number up, I think it's gone to like $500 million in 2 years from, $25 million. And his team is number 2 in the whole world, right? Wow. He's got these great players. So I'm with him and he gets a phone call and he's just got done telling me about this great success and where it is and how proud he is and how everyone goes to games and people are so thrilled and it's just become this movement in India and he's so proud of it. And he gets this phone call and the phone call is from his management team telling him that one of his competitors has just offered 4 times as much money as he was offering to his top 3 athletes who are the core of his whole team. And of course they all took them, right? And he was so angry. He was like, I can't even believe this. These guys were working in shops and I brought them here and I made them a star on national television and they have no loyalty to me. And he's suffering. And the way you suffer is you focus on yourself. Suffering comes when we obsess about ourselves what we're getting or not getting, what we should have done, what others should have done for us. It's the me game. Suffering can be worry, it can be anger, it can be frustration. It's anything that takes you out of a beautiful state. And here's what people don't get. You can end suffering by stop focusing on yourself and focus on something you want to serve greater than yourself. Your children, your wife, your mission, your life. You can get out of it in an instant because the nature of the human mind is to constantly compare things. Your mind, your brain is a 2 million year old device, and it is not designed to make you happy. It's designed to make you survive.
Right.
And that's why it's always looking for what's wrong. But it used to be what's wrong, a saber-toothed tiger, so I can protect myself. Now people are worried about what people think about them, or do they have enough money when 2/3 of the planet lives on $2 a day, and you're making $38,000, you're rich. The poorest of the poor in our country are considered rich. I'm not saying they should stay that way.
Right.
But you can only build on success. And so my view is, if you're watching, if you're listening to this, my goal would have you consider something. Life is short. We don't know how short it's going to be. But if you only had a week to live, I bet you wouldn't allow yourself to suffer over a little crap that makes you crazy normally. I think you would probably spend time with those you love. You would do what you love. You'd take awe in a sunset. You'd smell the air. You would take in everything in those final moments that you possibly do. So my thing is, why wait?
Right.
Why wait? Why not just decide that if I start to suffer, I know the solution, because suffering is me obsessing about me. You might say, it's not me. I'm worried about my kids because they're not doing well. No, you're worried that you haven't done enough for your kids. It's about you still, right?
Yes.
You're worried about what was done or what you should have done or what shouldn't have done. And you can end that in an instant by becoming aware of it and saying, I have made the most important decision of all.
Right.
I'm going to live in a beautiful state. Because here's what's going to happen. Anybody watching, you may lose a family member. You probably will. Somebody may get cancer. Your business the government might change the rules. They might change things radically that you can't even do anything about it. You might go bankrupt. You might get divorced. I'm not saying anybody will, but no one knows what's going to really happen in your life. Life's full of uncertainty, but here's what you can know. You can decide no matter what happens, you could have a great time. If somebody like Viktor Frankl could be locked up in Auschwitz and come out of that and experience finding joy in the middle of Auschwitz, then human beings have a capacity they've undersold themselves on. We think that the outside world determines how we feel. If people have to behave a certain way, if your husband or your wife or your kids or your coworkers or whoever, your boss has to behave a certain way for you to be happy, and if they don't, you're unhappy, then you're always going to be unhappy, because the more people around you, the more they're going to change that, because they're all human, right? And if you have to be a certain way to be happy, you're going to violate it too. So my invitation is, as great as it is to achieve, more important to enjoy. And if you can enjoy every moment in that state, when you're feeling loving and playful and passionate and curious and awe, you treat other people 100 times better than when you're feeling frustrated, pissed off, overwhelmed, worried, stressed, or feeling sorry for yourself. You're going to be a better parent, you're going to be a better lover, you're going to be a better business person, you're going to have a better life. So my soliloquy is, decide. Decide today. My very first teacher was a man named Jim Rohn. And he was a personal development speaker. And he had this 3.5-hour seminar he would do that I went to when I was 17 years old. I was already reading books. I was obsessed with wanting answers. I want to know what made the difference in the quality of people's lives. Not because I was intellectually interested, but because I grew up in a really tough environment. I had 4 different fathers. There was a lot of, my mom was a great human being who loved me dearly, but she, abused both alcohol and prescription drugs, so she was very physically abusive. And I was, believe it or not, 5'1" in high school. I was a little guy, so I got the beat out of me pretty regularly for things that I didn't do anything to do with. And so it made me try to figure out what made her work, what makes life work. It made me more of a practical psychologist. And the modeling concept came because Jim Rohn used to have this phrase. He said, success leaves clues. He said, if there's anything you want in your life, don't assume that somebody has some special gift. They may have a gift, but they probably developed it, most of it. And if you sow the same seeds, you'll reap the same reward. So figure out what this person's doing different than anyone else and do that. He used to have a funny way of describing it. He used to say, Tony, find out what poor people read and don't read because he said, that's the fabric they're trying to build their mind from. Find out somebody who's successful, wealthy, not just financially wealthy, but somebody who's rich emotionally and spiritually and physically and financially, and find out how do they live their life differently? What are the things they believe? What are some of the daily disciplines that they're a part of? And so really early on, I got obsessive about wanting to have all the answers. So I said, I'm gonna read a book a day. Because I figured, a person takes 10, 15 years of their life They pour 2 or 3, 4 years into this book, and you absorb in a few hours, literally a decade's worth of life experience. And I'm into compressing time. So I didn't read a book a day, but I read 700 books in the area of human development, psychology, physiology, all of my first real 7 years of reading, right? My youth. In high school, I was Mr. Solution. You have a problem, I have a solution. Especially if you're a girl, I was especially motivated. I could really help you with your boyfriend. I want to be more clear about something. Part 1 to have an extraordinary life is mastering the skill of the science of achievement. How do I take what I envision and make it real? And how do I do that quicker, faster, better, easier? The ability to manifest what you come up with and make it real, like you've done with your company,
yes,
that's a skill set. I spend an unbelievable amount of time helping people do it faster, quicker, better, showing them the shortcuts, teaching them the strategies, modeling what works so you can save yourself a decade. But I would submit to you that having done this for 38 years with, 50 million people at this stage, I can tell you that the science of achievement, there are a lot of people that are damn good at that, and they still don't have an extraordinary life. They have an extraordinary life. You see it as extraordinary, but I get the phone call from the multi-billionaire who tells me he wants to do this thing on his business, but what he really find out is he's miserable as hell, and he's hoping somehow I'm going to rub off on him on that side too.
Right.
And so I give him what he asked for, the change in his business, but I also give him what he needs, which is the change inside of him. So the second skill is the art of fulfillment. If you want an extraordinary life, you can't just achieve, you got to be fulfilled. As simplistic as that sounds, but it's an art. It's not a science.
Sure.
It's a science to making money. Come on. Any age, any color, any background, any gender. If you do these things, you'll have an abundance of money. You do these things, you're going to have too much month at the end of the money. You're going to have financial stress, right? Body. Everyone's biochemically different, but you and I both know there's fundamental rules, laws. There's a science to the body. You violate that science, you're going to have disease. You're going to have low energy. You align with that, you're going to have an abundance of energy. It's going to affect everything in your life. It's a science. I ask people, how many of you love Robin Williams? Everybody raising their hand all around the world, right? He made people laugh. People were touched by him. So how good was he at the science of achievement? I mean, he wanted to be a great comedian, make the whole world laugh. He did. He wanted to have his own TV show. He did. He wanted the #1 show. He did it. He wanted to make movies. He did. He wanted to have an Academy Award for not being funny, dramatic, and he did it, right?
He did it, yeah.
He said he wanted a beautiful family. He achieved everything, and he hung himself.
That's crazy.
And I know recently someone's saying, well, he had dementia, he had drug abuse, he had alcohol abuse through most of his life because he made everybody happy but whom?
Himself.
That's the ultimate failure. So if I had no other message to offer your viewers, and you let me give it to them right now, I'll tell you what I believe. I believe our lives are controlled by one force, decisions. I certainly believe in force greater than myself, call it God if you will, grace, whatever you want to call it, the universe. But I also believe it gives us choices. And the decisions we make control us much more than the conditions we meet. It's not the conditions, it's your decisions. Decisions of what to believe, decisions of what to do, decisions of what to give. I say to people, think about, look back 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 15 years ago, and think of a decision you made. That if you would have made a different decision, you'd have a totally different life today. Better or worse, I don't know, but totally different.
Right.
In your case, if you'd stayed doing what you're doing, you'd have a lot of money and still been miserable, right? And probably your great lady over here would be feeling miserable because she loves you so much and she'd be feeling your misery, wanting to figure out what to do. But you made that decision. Right. The most important decision you can make above any on the face of the earth is deciding that no matter what happens in your life, no matter what happens, you're going to live in a beautiful state. What the hell does that mean? It means that you're not going to suffer. It means a beautiful state is that you're going to be happy, but that's only one. Or you're going to feel creative, or you're going to be passionate, or you're going to be in awe of something, or you're going to feel love. Any state that's a beautiful state is really the core essence of who you are without fear. What is it that makes us even want to make a resolution? It's an interesting question. Why is it at the beginning of a year we have this tradition, but it goes beyond tradition. It's something inside of us that makes us want to make things better. And I think part of it is the calendar gives us this idea that we can have a fresh start, that we can start from fresh and have this great victory. And it's really, the calendar itself is quite arbitrary. It's wonderful to use it, but if you didn't use it effectively, let's use the calendar to serve you today. Let's just see, what does it really take to make this thing happen? Because there's no denying that inside of you, the only thing that's going to make you happy in the year ahead and the decades ahead is going to be having you have an experience where on a regular basis, you feel like your life is making progress. if there's one thing I teach, and I want to remind you of it, it's really simple. Getting things is not going to make you happy. That's good news in a tough economy. It's a good reminder. It doesn't matter what you get. Doesn't matter whether it be money or opportunity. All those things might excite you for the moment. Even a relationship, as magnificent it may be, might be exciting for a while. But if you don't keep growing, that relationship isn't going to stay exciting. So the secret to real happiness is progress. Progress equals happiness. And if we can make progress on a regular basis, we feel alive. And that's why at the beginning of the year, we get this thing like, okay, I can have this fresh start. I could really do what my soul desires. I could expand. I could grow. I could improve. I could change. Or maybe better than change, I could progress. See, think about that. Progress is an aliveness to it, doesn't it? You don't have to work at changing. People say all the time now, well, I'm working on changing. Don't worry about it. You don't have to work on changing. Change is automatic. Your body's going to change whether you want it or not as the years go by. And no matter how hard you work, there's going to be some changes going on there. The economy is going to change no matter what you want it to do. The weather is going to change. Relationships are going to change. Everything in life is always changing. We don't have to work on change. Change is automatic, but progress is not. So if you want to make real progress, then you really got to look at your life in a different way. You got to say, I got to take control of this process and not just hope it's going to work out like people do who make a resolution. Because really, isn't that what they're really doing at the beginning of the year? They're saying, well, here's my resolutions for the year, and they really basically tell you their wishes. It's their wish list. It's what they hope it all comes together. And then they call it a resolution, but they don't know what a resolution is. When you resolve something, to have a resolution is to resolve it. When you resolve, this is how it's going to be. That's when you cut off any possibility except the thing you've committed to. It's like the old adage, if you want to take the island, you burn the boats. Because when you burn those boats, there's no going back. You're going to find a way to make things work. And most people, they're stating what they hope will come together. And if it doesn't happen, then they're disappointed, but they're not too disappointed because they're not too vested. What does it take to successfully create a lasting change in your life? To not only have a New Year's resolution you follow through on, but really have a lasting change? Well, the first step for lasting change is very much like making a New Year's resolution. Fundamentally, it's the same. The first step is you got to have a vision for what it is you really, truly want. Not what you think you want or what you should have. I mean, what are most people's New Year's resolutions? I'm going to stop eating sugar. I'm going to stop smoking. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Problem with that is it's not very inspiring for most people. It's not telling you what you're going to get. It's only what you're not going to do. And it's kind of hard to have you move forward with that. A vision is about what you're here to create. A vision that really works is one that excites you. If you say, well, my resolution, my goal, my outcome for this month, this week, this year is to lose X number of pounds, that's okay, but it's not very compelling. It has to be a compelling vision. It's got to have something that has the power to pull you, not something you have to push yourself to do. Those are two different kinds of motivation. Push requires willpower, and willpower never lasts. What will last is pull. Having something so exciting, so attractive, something you desire so much that you have a hard time going to sleep at night and you get so up early in the morning to rock it and take it to the next level. That's what you're looking to create. And that isn't easy to get. But one of the reasons we do seminars and events and we say, why do that? Why not just read a book or something? Is because when you get in an environment where you're with people that are being put in a peak state, like when you're going to a sporting event, if you watch a sporting event at home, it might have a certain level of excitement. But when you're in a stadium with 50,000 people, suddenly it has a whole different level of intensity. And we feel that. And the bottom line of our follow-through comes down to our emotional intensity. In a different state of mind, you're going to come up with a much better and a more exciting vision than if you're sitting on the couch going, okay, what are my new resolutions for this year? And you're doing it the morning after the new year has started and you're a little inebriated and the football game's on in the background. Probably not going to have the power of focus there. Probably not going to have the power of the energy to create something that's going to pull you for this year. And you got to do that. So it's got to be a vision that's compelling. Something that it's going to be a gift to make sure that it happens. And also, along with that compelling vision, you got to have strong enough reasons that you're going to follow through when the going gets tough. That's one of the biggest things missing for most people. They say, this is what I want to do. It's not very exciting. It's not very compelling. But most importantly, they don't have strong enough reasons to push themselves through what's going to be necessary to get that dream, to get that goal when the inevitable challenges come up, when you're starving, hungry, and you're trying to go on a diet, right? When you got no time and you're stressed out and you haven't worked out still, and that's what you're supposed to do. when the economy gets tight and what you thought you're gonna do doesn't work, and so you give up on the goal instead of finding another way to get there. You don't let the fear take you over if you've got strong enough reasons. Those reasons can be positive, or those reasons can also be negative. They can be, if I don't do this, this is what's gonna cost me. And if I do this, this is what I'm gonna gain in my life. Reasons come first, answers come second. If you get a compelling vision and you got strong enough reasons that will push you through the tough times, you're gonna do things other people don't do. Instead of collapsing, even if you get off target, you won't go, oh, I blew it. You'll get right back on target, make the change, make things happen. You go through so many changes in here. It's like, that's what we need today. We need to re-engineer ourselves. If you've ever seen one of these Baja races, 1,000 miles in the desert, or, there's a million different races that if you took a normal car, you'd be out of it and probably die in the first day or so. But what they've done is re-engineer the shock absorbers, the size of the tires, the engine system. And we need to re-engineer ourselves for winter. We need to re-engineer ourselves so that we can thrive, not just survive during this time. And that's what I'm seeing people do in their life and their businesses. I mean, it's been really, I know it sounds crazy, but it's been one of the more beautiful times. I hate the fear that's been generated in so many people unduly. I mean, this CDC themselves, I wrote this in my book, there's a section in my health book, and I quote directly from the CDC. What's the number one risk factor other than age? 80% of people die of COVID, 79.8% are overweight and obese, extremely overweight, something you can easily do something about, nobody talks about. And number two is fear, because the anxiety makes people change their breath, they can't fully oxygenate. So it's like, there's a lot within our control if we just wake up. But the beautiful part of COVID is a lot of people waking up to what's possible, seeing where it is, seeing how they could change their entire business. Because when things happen, and they're gonna be unjust things, it doesn't matter the color of your skin, it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter what country you're from, injustice is everywhere. It's gonna happen to all of us at various times, right? Or it may not just be injustice, just like, wow, you got cancer. I mean, it's like, what do I do to deserve this? It isn't like that. It's not something you earn by brownie points. It's like, okay, what am I gonna do with what life has brought me? And my greatest growth that's helped me help so many other people is because, someone tells me I got a tumor in my brain and I'm gonna die. And I'm like, I don't accept that, right? I got a torn rotator cuff and there's, you're gonna have to go through 6 months of rehab. I'm not gonna accept that. There's gotta be another way, And so, and the things you can't control, you learn how to accept and learn from, And so I think COVID has offered that opportunity. I'm reaching more people because of it. I'm touching more lives. I'm having an impact. My wife and I have tried to have a child for quite many years. I have 5 grandkids and I have 4 kids, now 5, but I have a 9-month-old now. I have a 48-year-old daughter and a 9-month-old daughter, to give you an idea.
That's incredible, man.
So that's the gift of COVID, because I was home. We can say, let's give it another shot.
There you go. I want to hit you with another Tony Robbins quote. And this one, I think, sums up what you're saying here. You cannot fear change and do everything the way it's always been done. And so fear you talk a lot about, but man, I have people in my life that are older than me, and many of them, they are calcifying as they get older. And I watch what really served them well in their 20s and 30s. And I may have discussed this with you before, but I'm haunted by a quote that genius is a young man's game. And as a late bloomer, that never sat well with me. But when you look at people that win Nobel Prizes, it's almost always for work that they do in their early 30s. They get awarded in their 60s, but they did the work in their 30s. And seeing how you're going after like cutting edge stuff. I know one of the companies, I think you sold it to Apple, in the AR, VR space, if I remember correctly. I've heard you talking about Bitcoin for years now. I know you know about NFTs. Like, it's, how are you so able to embrace change? And how the hell do you stay this enthusiastic in a world that changes this fast as you get older? Why are you not? Like, so many people are crippled by that. They just want things to stay the same.
I think as early on, I realized, one of the things you have to understand about life is everything changes and everything ends. And that kind of sounds heavy on the front end, but it's a truth. If everything changes and everything ends, number one, it should make you appreciate what you have right now. And then my view is what's next is always better. If I make it so, it's my job to make it so. And so I think, for me, I look at it and say, when you said genius is a young man's game, I think that's total bullshit. I think passion is the genesis of genius. if you've got enough passion, you're gonna find answers nobody else does. But most people run out of fuel, meaning they get tired, they get exhausted, they get burnt out, they get, the law of familiarity. They're around something so much, they take it a little bit for granted. And I've managed to see something in myself that I found in every great leader that I've ever respected, and that is, I value intelligence immensely, but I know really smart people can't fight their way out of a paper bag pragmatically, right? I'm sure you do too. What I see as the one common denominator of people that are successful over a lifetime is the sustained hunger. Hunger is the number one factor. When I see somebody, I don't care what age they are, I don't care what their background is, if they're hungry to improve, to change, to make something happen. I mean, if you look at Richard Branson, he's as hungry today in his late 60s as he was at 16 years old in that crypt starting Virgin. You look at my buddy Mark Benioff, he's I think in his early 50s right now. Mark is more hungry today than when I knew him 12, 14, 15 years ago when he was first coming up with the idea of, he went to one of my seminars over and over again, the UPW, you know which one. And he went there like 4 or 5 times, and he was sitting in the front row. He's a tall guy, introduced himself and said, "You've convinced me, I'm gonna leave this company I work for as an employee here, and I'm gonna go start this new company called Salesforce.com.
Wow.
And he says, Tony, we're gonna do $100 million in business, we're gonna change business. Now he's doing whatever, 30 billion right now. but it's because he hasn't lost the hunger. And I think the law of familiarity is what destroys a relationship. If you take that same person, I don't care what's going on with them, and you put their shoulders back, I know this sounds absurd, and you have them breathe different, and they speak at a different tempo, and they move, their biochemistry changes like that. So you got to shift the way the body's being used, but then also you have to create a compelling future. This is the way I look at it. I look at it as 5 to thrive. I'm gonna give you a little picture in your head. Think of a triangle, the first base of 3 things. The base of how you use your body affects your depression or your excitement. If someone's depressed or they're excited, they use the body differently. They breathe differently, they move differently, they speak differently. So you can make a biochemical change just by changing the body radically enough in the way you move. Second is what you focus on determines what you feel. So if you're supposed to meet your husband or wife at 7 p.m. for dinner and you get there and they're not there, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, what do you feel? Well, some people go, I'm angry. Some people go, I'm worried. Well, it's only 7, Well, let's say it's 7:30 and they've not shown up, they've not called, they not text. Well, now some people go, I'm really worried. I'm really pissed off. It's 8:30, they haven't called. I'm full, a woman tells me, right? I didn't wait for the bastard. But my point is, whether you're angry or whether you're worried, those are biochemical effects, but they're all based on what you focused on. If you were really angry, like they did it again, they're probably screwing around with somebody else. If you imagine that in your mind, you're going to be upset. But if you were worried, you thought, what if they were in a car accident? You're going to get a very different biochemical effect. But people have habits of what they focus on. And those habits become your biochemical habits as well. And so they reinforce each other. It's not a one-way street. So that's why, I really believe exercise is one of the most important elements, pushing someone beyond their normal comfort zones physiologically, while you simultaneously are working on their head, creating something. So you need strong physiology, you need a really clear focus, because you're only experiencing what you focus on. The human brain is a distortion, deletion, and generalization device. Your conscious mind can only handle so many things at once. You're not thinking about your clothing touching your skin, or the sound of your heartbeat till I mention it, or let's say the sound of in your ear of being able to hear that heartbeat. All those things I have to call your attention to, because your brain is deleting most of what's going on, so it's not overwhelmed consciously. So we pay attention to a small amount of things. So if you're really happy, you're deleting all the things that could piss you off or make you worried. If you're really worried, you're deleting all the things you could be grateful or happy about. And we tend to generalize our lives because we're cognitive misers. We don't want to think things through. So if you have strong physiology, strong focus, then the third piece is meaning is what creates emotion. Like if somebody says something and you go, they're disrespecting me, or they're challenging me, or they're coaching me, or they're loving me. Well, whichever word you select for those sensations in your body, your biochemistry becomes. And so, somebody might say, this happened to me because God's punishing me, or this happened to me because God's challenging me, or this problem's here because it's a gift from God, or someone else says it has nothing to do with God, it's the fact that I've been a lazy bastard, right? Whatever it is you do in your head, there is a biochemical effect. So there's the body, there's the focus, and there's language. Those 3 shape how you feel moment to moment. If you're excited right now, using your body, your focus, and your language in a different way than if you're pissed off, than if you're worried, etc. But then what makes you use these three once you understand them is you need what's called a compelling future. You need something that gets you to move forward. And like, I feel so bad for the generation today, Z generation millennials, because so many of them are now talking about not even having children because of the exaggeration of the problems. We've always had problems. I remember we were gonna run out of oil, where the ozone was gonna be destroyed in the 1970s, the cover of Time magazine. We've always had these challenges, and we've always learned to adapt to these challenges, whatever those challenges may be. But people today think these problems are forever because we've had some times here that we've never had, where we literally shut down the whole world and had people trapped in their homes. And that has an effect on people because they don't have a compelling future. So you have to develop a compelling future. And what allows you to do that finally is what's under this triangle. If there's a circle, think of a compelling future, and there's the power of identity. Identity is, who are you beyond the problem? There's something inside you that's bigger than anything that's ever happened to you, that ever could happen to you. And tapping in and finding that part of yourself is how you get someone to have sustained strength. So they have a reason to do it, a compelling future, something they're going for. And it's got to be a compelling future about more than just getting by. That's not compelling, or surviving, or doing okay. The secret to anyone who succeeded is they found something they care about more than themselves. Something that has meaning for them that they want to serve more than themselves. Because as human beings, if you get in your head, you're dead. Almost all of us can find something to be upset about. That's the nature of the mind. The mind is constantly dissecting things, separating, comparing. But when you look back and you take a look at somebody's life and you look at the totalitarian aspect of, what am I here to serve? What am I here to give? What am I being called to for life? Those are the people that, were in concentration camps and survived. If you read Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, one of my favorite people on earth, right? His entire piece was they had a will to live because they had a compelling future. They said, I'm going to live so that I can tell this story so it'll never happen again. They suffered the most intense suffering, but they made it through it because they had a compelling future. So identity and compelling future are the ultimate things that shape people.